I decided to become a linguist at a point when I realized that I really had always been interested in language, and I was really fascinated by all that you could learn about the structure of a language, and also with greater scope, what you could learn about the faculty, the ability of human beings to communicate through language. So I had actually had a career as a graphic designer. And again, because I didn't find that it had enough to do with language and languages and multilingualism, I changed careers. Once I had decided that I was interested in linguistics, I started to research what universities offer, the type of programs that I wanted to pursue. And I was specifically interested in languages that were spoken by small communities and languages that were endangered. And it so happened that the University at Buffalo offered a very good program, and I quickly submitted an application, and I was accepted to their master's program initially. Generally, if someone wants to become a linguist, you would really need to do a PhD. So I entered through the master's program, and after 2 years of full-time coursework, I had to submit a paper, and this paper was specifically about a community of speakers of a Zapotec language living in San Lucas Chiavení in Oaxaca, in the southwest of Mexico. And with this research paper, which involved field work as well as a great deal of analysis, I was allowed to move on to the PhD program. So overall, I did 3 years of coursework, full-time coursework, and another 5 years of research. And eventually, I wrote a dissertation focusing on immigration as a factor that affects language vitality. I was very interested in working with indigenous languages from Mexico. Mexico is a place with tremendous linguistic diversity, and it has been threatened, especially in the last 500 years, to the point where less than half the languages that were spoken 500 years ago are still spoken nowadays. This is happening around the world, and it's important to realize that when a language disappears, when a language ceases to be spoken, this is detrimental to the community itself, and it's detrimental to humanity overall. It's detrimental to the community because it affects a part of their identity. It affects a means to communicate, to express what the community is about, what the history that the community has is all about. Every language encodes or registers, serves as a record of how this particular community has adapted over generations, again, what their history was, how they handled their environment, what kinds of animals, what kinds of plants were in their environment, and what they did with them. So there's a great deal of information about human evolution, human adaptation that is encoded in the language. Estimates range from 4,500 to about 6,000 languages spoken around the world. About 30% of those are spoken in Africa. Amazingly, 1,000 languages approximately, or about 20% of the world's languages, are spoken in New Guinea. And if you compare that to the fact that in Europe, there's only about 35 languages, and that constitutes about 2% of the world's spoken languages, you realize that we generally don't know about many languages. We know about 2-3 dozen languages that are the most widely spoken, but we forget about smaller languages. Here at the Natural History Museum, we're trying to respond to the language endangerment crisis. There's an initiative called Recovering Voices that looks to create partnerships so that we can foster research and documentation regarding endangered languages and involve communities that speak an endangered language, get them involved in conducting research themselves and also in developing revitalization efforts. And it's important to realize that the world is actually a multilingual place. Again, if there's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 languages and less than 200 nations, just a simple math makes us realize that every nation is a multilingual nation. There's no other way to see it. I find it very important to talk about this because many of these languages, truly overall around the world, linguistic diversity is decreasing at a rate that is very scary. Some experts think that by the end of this century, so by the year 2100, 90% of the languages that are spoken to date will be gone.